Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2026 with Foil Drive. For the first episode of 2026, we got Rob Pirie, Mr. Foil Drive. He is probably the most avid user of Foil Driver. Look at his garage. He's got every foil, every mast that you can think of that works with the Foil Drive. And today we're going to dive into what is the difference between an integrated mast and a non-integrated mast. So Foil Drives first started off as a product that can fit on any system, regardless of what brand, which is definitely its strong point. However, with them collaborating with all these major brands now, making specific products that suit, Armstrong or Code or Axis, for example, like there's many more. It's nice to see that we've got these dedicated products that make the most out of your foil jar. So, PIROS, give us your first take on integrated mast because you've been here from the beginning. You've experienced what it is to have like a normal pod, and then now you've developed into these like high tech integrated masts.
Yeah, I'm in a very fortunate situation. You can see in the background, I actually have ridden every single integrated mast out there. So, look, just in a nutshell, if you haven't got time to watch this podcast, yes, you have to have one. It's going to prove everything about a foil drive. There's not one negative point at all about an integrated mast. It's the single biggest thing, the single biggest improvement you can do. And it's not just because it's removing the external lead. It's the streamliningness of the pod on there. And then it's not just that, because you're not just buying an integrated mast. With every single manufacturer, including Code, the Code comes with a plus mast. The Armstrong is performance mast. The North is their new super duper duper mast. Axis has got their new. They've got a couple of versions of it as well. So you're not just getting an integrated mast. You're actually getting a whole new, well-tooled, new carbon fiber stiff foil profile as well. So it's a big advantage. It's a huge advantage.
Okay, so I've heard the advantage of this, but what do you actually feel? Like you're talking about drag, you're talking about all these things, a nice shiny product that looks neat. And I think that's a huge thing that first attracted me. Not only does it perform amazing, but it's just a neat product, It's nice that you could, sticky tape your cable and your pod to any mast. But now that, I ride Code, so like I want a mast and I ride foil drive all the time. I want a mast that's just for foil driving. And tell me why it's so good. Tell me the feel that you get from riding an integrated mast.
You hit the nail on the head there. Like when you're changing between masts, just say if you're a winger or something like that, or you're a power winger, and although you can still use the foil drive on those, people are sort of buying a second mast, so you are better off getting a foil drive dedicated mast. Now, the best way to test these things is when you ride them, it's what you don't feel. It's what's so good about them. And the best way to test it is do a wet water test, try to have a similar setup and change from one to the other. That's when you get back on the old bolt-on pod with the old Greek or Italian nose sticking out the front. That's where you feel it. And we know about my story at Point Plum with Jimmy, we're fighting in the shallows over the integrated mast. I've been riding it for a few days. He goes, Rob, you've got to give it back. And I gave it back, and then it wasn't. I jumped back on my normal Code setup, and I went, it took me, a good 3 or 4 batteries to get used to it again. So I actually had to avoid dropping the actual motor down into the water. So it's the slipperiness and just the whole. And once you start riding it, you forget. You don't even know if you're dipping your motor. That's the beautiful part about an integrated mast.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. With my foil drive coaching, it was kind of better before these integrated masts came, because if someone dipped their pod, they knew about it, and it was it's a lot of people when they're wanting to learn how to get off the foil drive, so learn how to motor and then go to free foiling, they would always not move their feet and nosedive the board back to the water, and they would drag their pod and they would have to re-engage the motor. And now with the slippery pod, they barely, a lot of people in that beginner intermediate stage, they don't even know when the pod's touching, because like what you said, that key word, it's so slippery. And I think it's nice to see some of those bigger brands now jump on board because I think before, when there wasn't integrated masks, they didn't really take it seriously because a lot of the people in the industry are maybe super what's the word, like, they're a bit more core where they rely on, like, they're either prone or they sup or they wind wing, and having that drag reduction, it's just like they weren't interested. But now it's cool seeing, like, people like Army Armstrong who's addicted to the foil drive because they have like this product now that just feels so much like free foiling, which I think is the goal, right?
Oh, look, it definitely is, and it's, and downwinding is another sort of aspect of it. But just going back to Army, like, we just had, like, 2024 AWSI, he didn't even have, they weren't even interested in four driving. AWSI 2025, they had one of the first integrated masts out. Insane. And, like, that was done in less than 12 months. So it's a credit to Four Drive where companies like that, like yourselves, like Code and North and Axis and AK, have pumped so much into, like, I would shudder to think what a mold costs, for a mast. Like, it's got to be, it's got to be like 10,000 plus bucks, to do this. So it's a big investment from you guys. And like you guys, you've got your whole new wing range coming out. Same with Armstrong. I said, how did you do it in a year? And he said, oh, mate, there was a few times there they've just gone, what are you doing, Army? Piss that four drive thing off. He goes, no, we got to, because you guys can only develop so much at once, can't you?
Oh, that's it. And it's like you got to prioritize where the focus of the business is, because if you try and attack many different parts of the industry, you kind of do a mediocre job of them all. So it's kind of nice seeing people really diving in and seeing that the foil drive is a discipline and is a growing part of the market, a really fast growing part of the market.
It is, and it's this whole slipperiness too, and it's if you just forget about the downwind, forget about your starts, forget about everything else, but just think about your surfing when you're coming around doing a cutback, and before, like, you come around, like, it's always easy to come around a cutback, to bring it back around again. That's where you tend to dip down and come back around. That's where that pod would grab, pull the board down, and you sort of do like a bog rail last turn. With these slippery integrated masts, you can actually come down and bring your pod back into the water, and it's not going to slow you down or hurt you in your cutback. And it's also, too, it's allowed us to get the board designs back. I know you guys work on this, that before the four-drive board was treated as like a boat to get you up. And once you're up, you kept the board away from the water. And now these beautiful, slick masts, you can now start coming back into board contact. So you get, foam ball bounce-offs and everything like that. You can only do that with the integrated mast. It's, like, I know you've been popping airs and a few things as well. Like, you got to come down and come back up. You're not going to, to launch, you're not going to do that with a bolt-on pod, are you?
No, like it was pretty, like, I remember, I think it was one of the first trench boards I had. I still had a regular mast with the regular pod, and I remember my battery died one day in the surf, and I paddled as hard as I could, and I actually caught a wave. And before that, I've tried that before, and it never happens. There's too much drag. It's just like, it's hydrodynamics. You can't beat that. So the trench board for me definitely reduced a lot of drag, and I've learned so much with the foil drive, like all these minute little things that you think would never make an issue, and you start deleting all these little points of contact that create drag, and then you realize, like, where you've come from and how much better the performance is of your board, your mast, everything. And it's just like it ends up making you a better foiler. So I definitely think that when the trench boards kind of came first, I guess, that was like, whoa, the game changer. But then now with all these like slippery integrated masts, especially the carbon ones, because if we talk about integrated, and we'll get into it in a sec, the aluminiums were the first, right? And they had the existing, the Greek nose cone that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's they were a huge step forward. I think the first one I tried was the No Limits one, which had the original pod on it.
Yeah.
And I remember after I rode that in the original shoot that we did for No Limits, I went like, this is incredible. Like, it's crazy. I never thought that a cable on the back of a mast would create that much drag. And Paul always told me that was the issue. And I couldn't see it. And I remember the very first time I rode first time I got the foil drive max kit, I didn't even take the cord at the back because I was
Yeah.
like, whatever. And then I remember Paul just hammering me, going like, "Mate, that causes so much drag. You tripping. You're going to lose so much efficiency." And then I started taping, and I was like, "Oh my god, okay." And then now we get rid of that cable, and it's inside the mast, and it's a whole nother level too.
Yeah, because you've got to understand too, like take code for example. Look how much time you put into your foil profile. Like you
Yeah.
put so much work into it, and by putting the cable on the back of that mast, you absolutely destroy it. And I know there's a lot of guys out there on the foil drive forums, and they're like me, they've got like a little bit of PIROS chop chop, and they're always making all these little 3D things and things on the back of it. I end up sort of making it fatter and fatter and fatter, and I sort of say, look, you're better off just with a supply bit of rubber and a really nice clean tape job. That's going to be the most efficient you're going to get it. It's and it's got to be neat because you see some guys with gaffer tape and like even Dale used to not tape the bloody thing. I said, mate, come on. So
Because
yeah,
and that's actually also the beauty of the foil drive. The thing has so much power and grunt that you can be neglectful and not do all these things that's going to give you extra performance, and it's still going to work. That's the
yeah,
beauty of it. But the
oh,
thing is,
100%.
if you want the most out of your gear, and that's what's happening now because people are going from beginner to intermediate to advanced, and they want the most out of their kit. Like it's like any of us. That's why we're always upgrading gear and upgrading foils because we want to get better. So it's like it would be silly that you could easily upgrade your gear by like it's not even some of them's not even an expensive cost, like a bit of tape to tape your cable. Like that's going to give you already a huge improvement of drag efficiency. And it's like people just like not bothering with it, which in my eyes is crazy.
Oh, look, I'm an absolute Nazi on it with everything I do. And like, I even use a particular brand of tape. I use Nitto because, I used to put it around my edge of my outrigger pad. That's just like the best, like this Japanese electrical tape. It's beautiful stuff, That's what I use. It's what I used to use until I got to the integrated mast. But and the other thing too about the integrated mast against the bolt-on ones too is about this too because you've actually on the back of your mast the motors now actually go in. They're rebated in. So from say from the front of the mast to the actual rear of the prop, it's now closer,
Yes.
and that's like a lot of people won't even recognise this, but you're getting that by bringing that thrust in. Like I know some of the other major brands, like one of the really big major brands, they've gone, we're going to go a narrower motor, but they've made it so much longer. I think you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The prop almost hangs out the back of the board, and chop your nuts off. They've gone that long, and it's actually the wrong way about it. You want to bring this prop into the shorter and shorter and shorter, as short as you can. So it's like your power on, power off. So if you've got your power thrust back here and it's on off, like and if your board's not that well balanced or you're not standing on it properly, the closer you bring that thrust to your mast, it's a huge thing. And hardly anybody knows about that when you look at it, but it's the same. It's the same on the code. It's the same on the North. It's the same on the Axis, and it's the same on the Armstrong and the KT. They've all done it. So it's another little thing that nobody sort of noticed, and it's just a big advantage with it all.
Totally. Let's run through the history of integrated masts, and you've been fortunate enough to try them all. So let's kind of go through where they started. I think from what I remember was Axis the first one with
Well, I
their
said
red
that
in
one of the
aluminium.
videos, but it got corrected. And some guy reckons it was Cedrus. I've never actually seen one
Okay.
of the other ones.
I've actually ridden a Cedrus, one of the early ones, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like the motor was at like 25 centimeters,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was blown away by how much slippery it was. But I
Yeah.
just was I'm never really used to a 25 centimeter. I think even if you're like the best foiler in the world, it's bloody hard to keep the 25 not dipping.
Oh and definitely. And I think you're right too. That Axis mast that was on the original, 19 millimeter mast, and that's the first one I rode. But then I got very early in the piece. I got one of the no limits, same as you. But it still
I loved it.
But it still had a little forward nose cone, like a bit of a French nose cone. just a little
Yeah.
one.
We got to be careful here. There's international guests.
Yeah. Sorry.
But I think they'll understand the Aussie humour.
Yeah, but I'm a huge fan of no limits. When they brought out that thing, they said, "Oh, look, no foils over 1,000 square centimeters." Because what happened? Look what happened this is the thing about foiling, just overall. Like when wingdinging first came out, I remember people saying, "Oh, you'll never take them in the surf and you'll never jump them." Like, look at wingdinging now. So, who would have thought? Like, Axis they probably got belted the most. They brought out all these huge width foils, and then guys are going, 20, 30, 40 feet in the air and landing and breaking them and claiming warranty. Because Axis, when they first designed those wings,
People weren't doing that.
No one was sort of doing it, and that's what happened to No Limits. But then they got bought out, and the new company, it's actually a space company. They didn't want anything to do with it. But the No Limits, our Mars, they're actually offcuts of the Mars, modular lunar, like this landing kits. So I just look at myself. I wonder if this is actually part of an offcut of the little Mars little robots running around on the planet now. Okay? So that was pretty cool. And those guys were super cool. I was there in 24, and they're going to the factory, and Paul's going up and said, "Oh, please take me." And they've just said, "There's no way you're taking Pirie there." I'm just like a leaking sieve with secrets. So, but yeah, so they're a great bunch of guys, and I've got 4 of them. You can probably still see some in the background, But it's a shame. But anyway,
you got lucky where you got some custom little pods put on them, right? So you're pretty fortunate with that too.
And then I was also with Jim Stringer too. Like, I've got all the multi adapters and all that too. So I can, and that's why I keep them around, because I can ride F1, KT, Code, Lift, Axis.
Yeah. I loved No Limits. I was actually very sad when they kind of said they were leaving the game, because I was fortunate enough. I'm only 80 kilos, so I never really felt that flex or that worry that with a bigger foil it could be flexy. Yeah.
Even on my back wall here, there's even amongst all that, there's nothing over 1,000 square centimeters. I don't have it. And that's what I say to people. And then, I'm always running around on, the 700s and all that. I'm still working on this Battle of the 700s videos. And the guys at Surf Effects get asked, I said, "How's PIROS running around on these small foils, being so fast and efficient?" And they know I don't have any bigger ones in my car. So that's all he rides, and you learn from it. So that's what I was doing on the No Limits. And but now I'm just doing it with everything else. And again, to ride these smaller foils, become super efficient, I dead set could not go back to a non-integrated mast now. Hey,
I've actually, because with the coaching, I've coached a few people where I always love to ride their kit just to see what they're feeling, and it's super noticeable when you go back, because I guess we're so in tune with these integrated masts now. When you do go back, it's completely different. But in saying that, it's like, I very much so. I always ride super short pod heights, very close to the board. So when my motor's on, my board's in the water. I know people got different techniques. Like Robbie Miashuri loves his kind of dolphin pump. I very much just love my board hard on the water, and I motor. And then when I'm not motoring, I'm bowling well above the pod and making sure that pod's never touching. So for me, it sucks, because you're not going to get as much efficiency when your board's in the water, because you're dragging a thicker pod. But it's I really notice when I make a mistake and the pod touches when I've got the original pod on, because it's like what you said, it sucks you down and it bogs. And sometimes you can make your way out of it, but it'll be like you're going through the turn and you've got your arms spread out and you're killing it, and then all of a sudden it dips, and then you wobble, and then you're winding the windows up, and it's just it doesn't look pretty. And I don't like that. I really, with me, I love flowing through, whether you're surfing or you're downwinding. I want it all to flow where it looks effortless. That's my goal with foiling. So it is hard to go back, for sure. And it's funny, because we've actually got a few ambassadors here in Sydney where we've been trialing our code integrated mast, and the guys don't want to give the mast back, because they're like, I don't want to go back to the old one. And it's just so it is if you're dedicated to foil driving, it's definitely something you got to have in your quiver. I think it'd be silly not to have it.
Yeah, and I don't know how far you want to go into the code integrated mast, but the downwinding side of things, And like you say, riding the board down low. So like you say, when you put a very low mounted motor in a trench board, like the prop's very close to the board. I know yours, you only probably got an inch of clear swing space from the top of the board. And that's what I like on the downwinders too. And I was talking to Paul this morning, and I said, what's the call from Europe? And it's quite bizarre. It's the, like how it's just the pump fest over the dock starting. It's the dock starters want it.
Dock starters want to foil drive.
No, they want it for their pump practice. So these integrated masts is the only way they can do it now. Whereas before, if you're pumping it out in the middle of the lake and you drop the pod down, you get going.
Yes, right?
I
understand.
So now they got the integrated mast, and he said, there's been a big push for that. So and there's been sort of like a bit of a lean towards the Maxes with sport batteries and things like that again, and the Slims for those guys. Because I sort of accuse Maui sometimes that they think they're the centre of the universe for all their board designs and wing designs. And I think, we're guilty of it too in Australia. We tend to think we're the centre of the universe for four-wheel drive. Well, I do.
But, I thought Currumbin was the centre of the universe.
But, it's good to hear that from the Europeans too, because we're 12 months a year in the surf. They're not. They've only got certain times, and again, like the integrated mast, it's just perfect for those guys, and it's just something else they can do to makes it easier. But the downwinding, I'm just going nuts trying to crack this 2-minute mark, and I still haven't done it. But the integrated mast, downwinding, and four driving, I'm going out with Australia's best. Like I'm out with the Taju brothers, everyone, I'm out there. We're finishing minutes apart.
Okay, so let's break down your downwinding. I know this is kind of going a little bit off track from integrated, non-integrated mast, but I'm just interested. When you're going for your 2-minute kilometre, is there any motoring involved in a 2-minute kilometre, or you just motoring?
No, and that's what everyone's got to understand. You're never going to do that on motor. You have to be free riding. It's the motor slows you down. It's just a ting, So
you're basically just using the motor to get up, and then that's it.
No, I use the motor like you guys use your paddle.
Okay.
Right? So you know how you sort of come in and you got a little bit of a flat spot and you'll go pump, you go ting, 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 ting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'll do. I'll go ting, 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 and it's like, I saw one guy once saying, if you're doing a downwind on a four drive, once you get up, put your remote away. I just go, no. I go, look, it's not illegal to pull the trigger on a downwind, We're still coming in with tons of battery. Like, my mate Mark Rennie, we did 19K the other day, and he had 72% left, which is just insane. I was, 60 or something. So but again, it's all an integrated mast. Hey, it's you're not going to be doing that. Well, you can. You'll just be coming in with less battery.
Yeah.
So, and then I go up to the sup guys, and they go, okay, we'll all wait and start together, and they just start going out to sea, and I just take off and go see it. And it takes them about 10K to catch me. But it's good. And I just really like the integrated mast for downwinding is just another level again. And if you can, and I've been grinding away at the sup downwinding, and I'm just a C grader at best at a sup paddle downwind. But all of a sudden on a four drive with the integrated mast, I'm up there with
keep up with the best.
Yeah,
love it.
It's sick, eh? And and we can take sort of slightly different lines and things like that. So and if the conditions aren't great, we can turn them into shore runners. And but again.
That is beautiful. I love when the conditions are cross on shore.
Yeah.
And basically, if you're not on a foil drive, you just have to cut as hard as you can out to sea to keep a straight line. And it's not really downwinding. You're just cutting across the wind. Versus with the foil drive, you could just motor directly out into the wind and get a good enough line where you're coming straight into the end, basically.
Yeah, and it's the same deal too. So, I've been at it a bit, and I bring other guys who aren't so great at it. So, if I get a big lead, I just turn around and I drive back. I drive back into them. And again, this is where the integrated mast is the best in the world, going into the wind. It's insane because it's permanently in the water the whole time. So if you had a bolt on, that nose would be permanently in the water. And the whole time it'll be bringing your nose down, bringing your nose down. So it'd be chewing up heaps more battery. And if you're on smaller foils, it's hard to keep the launch there. You have the motors, they can start to stall, start to stall, start to stall. So that's what I really like about the integrated, the most out of the whole thing. Just the actual downwind ability. And I know you did your what was your mental upwinder you did in flat and
Oh,
fusion?
that was the beauty of the fusion. I definitely I'm lucky where I'm, only 80 kilos. So for me to go upwind, I've always like, I don't know, I think it's just a skill that I was lucky enough it came naturally to me. But upwinding it's hard, right, Piros? Like
Oh yeah,
upwinding
mate,
is
it's a
bloody
skill,
hard.
mate.
Like
It's a skill, not the
it's
because the stall.
the
It's a skill, not to stall the foil.
correct. So basically, what you're trying to do is imagine a pump track. Not that I've ever skateboarded on a pump track. I really want to because it looks so fun.
Yeah,
But you're trying to make your board go up and down the curves of the pump track. And if you try and go horizontally straight over them, it's not going to work because your motor's going to be in and out of the water, losing lift because every time it comes out of the water, unless you've got enough glide from that foil, it's going to stall out. And what you want to do is you want the nose to follow the curve of the ocean. And if you've got like, a secondary swell, a third swell, it's like it's not just like a beautiful wave that you're going up and over. It's like you got cross waves coming through it and you're on the whole time. Like your focus is so on because if you for 1 second go uphill and stall out, it's all over. And you got to
yeah,
kind of, you got to most probably you have to turn back downwind,
that's
get
exactly
going,
right.
and then do a big U-turn and go again. So it can be exhausting. And I know I was with you, Piros, in Hood River, and like some days there, it's over 30, 40 knots, and it's so hard to go upwind. Like we
Yeah,
were all lying down on our chest because it's like trying to be as small of an object as possible. It's kind of like boogie boarding going up and down over the bumps because, if you're standing tall, you're a huge sail and there's a lot of, wind going against you. So it's tricky,
that's
but
what I
it's
did.
a skill that like since the integrated mass, it's just a knife through butter. Like it's just quicker going through, and there's less moments where the drag stalls out your foil.
Yeah, it is, and like you really hit it. So it goes back to my clubby days. Was on paddleboards and skis. Like going into it, it's sort of you're also. It's like you say, it's not a straight line. If you are going over big troughs, you can actually get a run, even though the wave's going the wrong way. You can still get a run down the back of the wave, and it's like you're
Yes.
not travelling a straight line. You're not travelling a straight line. So people are just going bam, 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 bam. You're doing exactly what you're saying, and it's a concentration like you wouldn't believe. But again,
Yeah.
if you've got a pod every 2, 3 seconds grabbing,
Mm.
grabbing,
Hmm.
you'll still be able to do it. And like you don't have to have the integrated mast, but you're just going to burn more battery. So instead of going, 5, 6, 7, 8 car upwind, you're going to go 3 or 4. Then you turn
Yeah.
around and come back.
Yeah, I think like a good comparison is like, so at home here we've got a 7 kilometer local run. Back when I just had the Gen 2 Max original code mass with the normal pod, I could get 5 kilometers, not quite to the top.
Yeah,
Integrated mass, I could get integrated mass with the Max. I could go 7 kilometers, and then now with the Fusion, I did like 18 kilometers the other day. It
yeah,
was crazy because I'm with the Fusion. It's a little bit different. You can run the battery down to like 0 basically, versus with the Max, you get to 10%, and it's a little bit scary getting to that.
oh yeah,
That
100%.
you,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just like you don't want to push the limits that hard with the Max. The Fusion's just crazy the amount of power that's got that thing, but like it's the skill for sure.
And it's like it all, and the integrated is it's like it's because it's going to make it easier. Your battery's going to last longer. You're going to go further, and it's just simply easier to ride. And that's what I'm saying. If you really want the real comparison, go demo one for a week and give it back. And the first 30 seconds, you're just going to go, oh, because everyone always thought it was a Gen 2 unit, and that's why I say to people, I go, if I'm going to spend money on something, do I get a trench? They said, no, don't get a trench. I said, get an integrated mast. That's the most important. That's the first thing you can do. And and especially all like there's no duds. Doesn't matter what. I'm not going to tell anyone to. I'm not going to guide anyone into a brand because there's simply not one dud brand out there. And the same with the foils now. There were a few duds out there, and they've just been, they've just been weeded out, natural fruition. So all the brands now that have got integrated masts, like I would, so any of them, I'd just say, yep, just grab one and go. If I would never say to someone, I'll sell up and switch because there's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah, it's nice that you've got your people that are dedicated to a brand because it is hard to switch brands. It's like, you lose a lot of money when you sell up and you move brands. But basically all the top dogs, like the big brands, they've all got an integrated mast now. So whether you're already with a certain brand, you don't have to then buy, like a certain mast with an adapter on the head. Like basically all the brands are jumping on board now, which is really cool to see because, you only have to buy a new mast now. You don't have to buy like a whole new complete setup. But we kind of stopped. I kind of want to keep trickling on with with your knowledge. Like, okay, so the last one you spoke about was No Limits. Where did it go from then? Was it North?
No,
F1?
no. I had No Limits was my first mini pod. So I had the normal pod, and then Paul. I actually got the last one made, and it was like it rocked up at my house, and about 2 days later, it was all over. So mine's just like a little 3D printed one. So it went from there, and then so the North, I probably had the North. It was the North I actually had for the longest. So because I'm a good mate of Mike Rope, he's a top bloke. He comes over and he spends a few weeks every Christmas, and he comes over. It was just pumping.
And he loves the foil drive. Loves it.
Oh yeah, he rips on it too. So I've done quite a few videos. I just kept hitting him on WhatsApp, going, Mike, get over here, get over. And his daughter goes to uni here too, so he's got a good excuse to come over. And I just go, Mike.
So tell me, they were kind of all in. They went aluminium first, right? And they did like a few different heights.
They were also sorry, yeah, that's true. So sorry, North were very early. So I've got an e-foil mast in the background. So they were actually. Yeah, so they actually had the very first e-foil alloy mast to fit a Fusion. So
Wow.
everyone just goes, the Fusions are new. Not to me. Like I've had Fusions for well over a year. I've got a few little protos there in the background. So, I was testing those for quite some time. And then, and again, so talking integrated mast, if you've got an e-foil mast, like more so, you have to have an integrated one. You can tape it on all the way down. I have done it. You sit there, you need about 3 rolls magneto tape. It takes so long. But you've destroyed that foil profile for 650 mil. So you are 100% on trigger the whole time. Even if you're on a wave, you're still, because that whole foil profile of the mast just isn't working. But if you've got an integrated e-foil, you can still go. I've done go through my YouTube. You'll see me just totally free riding. I think I'm doing it on the Slingshot and I'm doing it on the North as well, and just free riding and pumping around. It's quite amazing how slippery they are, And they're not mini pod, but they do have the very small little nose cone on it. And then I put the 2-blade prop on the e-foil one, so when I'm free riding, the 2-blade folds up much tighter. And they're great. And that's all you need is the alloy one. You don't need a carbon version of it. I know Armstrong they do have a carbon e-foil one, but I haven't seen it. And I really don't. It's sort of, it's only so much stuff they're going to give me. So, but yeah, it's very important for your e-foiling, like to go integrated. And also too, it's like if you're taking your pod off and you're taping it all up, you're talking like an hour exercise to swap over. You're not going to do it, or you're going to buy a second mast. So you might as well just get an integrated alloy, and they're a lot cheap.
I was actually teaching a couple of friends today on the foil drive, and whenever I teach, I usually put them on the e-foil, but I basically never use an 85 centimeter mast, so I've got a code 85 centimeter mast, and I've done that. I've taped the whole way to the bloody top, and I've actually, because I only ever use the e-foil with learners, I've got the safety cage around the prop.
Yeah.
So I've got drag coming from that safety cage. I've got the tape running all the way up to the top. I don't have a HP motor on it. It's just like the V2 motor, and
Yeah,
it's crazy how much more juice you got to give it to get it going versus
yeah,
like if you've got the just a regular with no safety net on it. Um, with your HP motor, it's like night and day. It's like
yeah.
straight
Oh,
up.
it is,
So,
hey. It is,
um,
and also too with that with the drag of the tape, the drag of the safety cage, the power on, power off, it really dips the nose
correct. Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
power, it's not getting the glide. So when you pull your finger off the trigger, it's not getting the glide from the foil. It's like on an aircraft dropping on an air brake, just
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
very hard to, and it's obviously harder for the punters to get their finger off and sort of free ride it,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
hard.
again, so
Oh, it's just like I want to create a safe environment for these first time users. So I think the really the main thing is you want them to learn how to foil because if they're constantly tacoing, I want that safety around the prop like
oh,
big time.
100%, mate, yeah,
But then
100%.
when they get to maybe after a session or two sessions where they're learning how to, if they do fall, they just kick the board in front of them and lean back, then I'm like, okay, we can take the safety off now. Like, it's, or even with the Fusion, you've got the tilt sensor now, so it'll cut it off altogether. But yeah, that's like going back to the original. And I am jealous, it's something that I really want. It'd be really nice to have a code e-foil
Oh,
version.
mate, I tell
Um,
you, you get in the canals, you think it's boring because like I used to ride the bloody flight board, and the and get on like you get on say one of your sup boards, your smaller sup racing boards, where the mast is just like so far forward. Mate, you get in the canal on a really nice foil, something like say your 850S code or something like that, mate. You just rip. It's so much fun because you've got reverse swing weight, from the board hanging out the back, which you never get from an e-foil because the mast is always right at the back, and they've got all their weight completely in front of it. Where this is all
mm,
not, it's actually really balanced. And
mm.
then you can actually get in the canal and you go around in circles with the wingtip out,
Oh,
and
wow.
you can just look at the tip. You just go around and around and around, and it's insane. And like I say, but you can only do that with integrated mast. It has to be an integrated mast to do that. But it's heaps of fun. Like, by the end of it, like I'm going in between pontoons. Like, yeah, I'm going to come unstuck horribly one day. I'm going to pick up a crab pot or something. But it's, you wouldn't think flat water e-foiling could be so much fun, hey? And
Yeah.
especially with the Fusion, it goes for miles. You go so far, you'd be quite surprised. In the early days with the Fusions, I had I took them a long, long, long way away, and they shit themselves and had a big paddle back. But I used to stay. I'm used to stay close, but now I'm sort of going away again. But yeah, so like, and a lot of I think yeah. So Axis has got one, North has got one, Slingshot's got one. This is e-foil integrated alloy mass,
Yep.
and then Armstrong's the only one with a carbon one at the moment that I know
Yeah.
of.
I take my hat off to them for doing that. I thought that was very clever.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's like I'm sure I think I don't know if I rode that in Hood River, but it looks beautiful. Like it just yeah, it looks really nice.
oh, it is too. Like I've put a lot of time in the North, put a lot of time in on the Armstrong, and I've actually had, I've still got mine or yours off Marcus. Like the code's probably the hardest to get and keep for 50 days. It's like
We're just teasing you.
you're booking into a restaurant. Yes, you can have it between 6 and 8:30 on Thursday morning. Something like that. But yeah, so. And do you want to talk about yours? It's still too early, or the
Mate,
code?
we're super close. The release is happening the start of Feb. I'm not going to give any details besides that, but I know people have been waiting a long time. Like we're constantly getting emails every day. When's it happening? When's it happening? We just want to get it right, and we want to get it we've been prototyping the shit out of it, and like it's got to the point where we're very happy with the product, and it's ready for market. It's just the whole production thing. It doesn't happen overnight. It's definitely a process. It's a very complicated product, but it's coming. It's like we're filming now this on the 8th of Jan, so in less than a month, it will be in people's shops for them to purchase,
So
which is
can we talk
exciting.
about the actual base plate of the mast or not?
No, we can't talk about any of it. Mate, I'm trying to steer you towards the other brands. Like, what you've gone North, and you talked about North,
Well, I talk about
Slingshot,
North because, like I said,
Axis.
I'm a really good mate of Mike's,
Yeah,
and mate, they are so passionate about their stuff. Hey, they put so much time into that mast. Hey, it's insane. So I actually think it's got at the top, like it's tapered. It's got the narrowest cord, but it's also the thinnest out of all of them.
hmm
Still super stiff. And then when they're actually doing the layup, of the carbon, so like they actually have changed the angle of the twill. When they get to the external layers to give it. So what the factories are doing now is they're using less carbon, stronger carbon, and then they're changing the actual weave design to give it more strength. So inevitably, the factories, they're using less carbon, they're using less epoxy, but it's giving you a lighter and stiffer, more and finer profile mast. So we're the big winners out of it, because the factories, the technology is just insane, absolutely insane. So yeah, it's a beautiful mast, and like I say, Mike's so passionate about it. Hey, it's great when you sort of talk to him about it, and it gets in. Talk about it. It's really cool, and the same with Army. I had a good talk to him about his as well, and they've got the heavy influence of America's Cup guys.
yep.
So the Armstrong, it's the one with the more forward mounted pod design. So everyone's got their reason to do it. Everyone else is they're all different though, but you could probably throw a blanket over them. But the Armstrong is more pronounced to the forward. So I don't know. It's hard to say which one's the best or anything like that. I sometimes I feel like maybe I actually on the Armstrong I can get a little bit of a lift when I dip down, but it's so hard because if I'm jumping off an Armstrong with Armstrong foils, then jumping on a North and North foils, or jumping on a Code with Code foils, very hard to get the difference between them all. But he's passionate about an Army, and he'll talk to you all day about it, and it's just great that the time they've just put into it. And then you got Adrian from Axis. Well, so it's not released yet, but it's pretty. They put it on their website, so I suppose I could talk about this. I hope I can.
I
So
swear people can buy their integrated carbon mask, right?
well, no,
Oh, okay.
no. So it's actually up on websites, but you can't. I
Yeah,
think
that's what I've seen. Yeah.
so. I'll let the cat out of the bag on it. They've got they got their ultra mask and they got their non-ultra mask. I don't know what you call it. So
It's just high modulus and ultra high modulus from what I gather.
yeah.
It's
So
all on their website, so it's public. Yeah.
yeah, so it's public. So they've actually gone and done two different masks. So one's obviously a lot less expensive, and my personal opinion, they're ultra high. I don't like. I only ride small foils. I'm on 700s and things like. You don't need it, unless you're going to be riding swinging big wings. You don't need that big, strong, tough mask because it's actually quite from below the motor. It's actually quite the cord of the mast is a lot more. So whether it's a good thing, bad thing, I don't think it's an improvement. I think the smaller, more streamlined mast is better, especially if you're riding small foils. But if you're swinging big foils, you have to have the top mast, that's for sure. And Axis makes the biggest and widest mental crazy mast out there, like 1.7, is it? With an aspect ratio 22 something?
I think so. Yeah. It's interesting what these masks have to the load they have to take on because, foil designers are really pushing the limits with the high aspect and bigger sizes of the foil. Then, your mast is the spine of the whole system. If you've got a shitty mast, it's not going to do any favors for the rest of your setup because it's gonna if you got flex in that mast or flex in the connection or whatever, it's gonna feel rubbish. So it's cool that all these brands are putting so much research and development into these masks because they're high tech bloody products. Like they putting electronics with carbon in the water, like far out. Can't think of like a more of a headache to design and publish.
Oh, for sure. Like stainless steel and carbon are just like on a galvanic chart. They're one's at the top, one's at the bottom. They hate each other. So, and then you're putting a lithium battery with it as well. There's all reasons for corrosion, reactions, and things like that. But the four drive unit is very like it's not like a normal boat. It's like I think once upon a time when if you're in a marina and an aluminium trawler would pull up beside you, a thing that looks like 100 years old. All the other trawlers used to get big anode blocks and drop them in the water because if that boat had an electrical leak, it'd just sort of eat your whole boat out. So the four drive unit's so well contained, and you've got to look at that one that come off the cloud board where the guy didn't do up his T-nuts. It was on the bottom for I don't know how many months, and we just ripped the battery out, put a battery in, the thing fired up. It was insane. That just goes to show how well sealed these four drive units are. Hey, it's quite amazing, absolutely amazing.
So I think the one more that I can see on the wall that we haven't talked about is the F1. So that looks like an aluminium one.
Yeah. So they're very early in the piece as well. So they're very slow to the uptake F1. So so I don't know what happened. They were very early, and then they sort of just stalled with it. So I know I'm probably one of the only people I know who's actually got one.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Four Drive's got some in stock. I don't know. So F1 got into Surf FX earlier this year. It's been pretty slow moving on that one. Like you got things like code coming. Like, what have you guys been going? 3 years now?
Yeah.
It's like you just went boom, like straight onto the market. It's unbelievable. And then you got new brands like KT just come onto it as well. So, and then you had brands like Cabrina who I used to ride for and everything like that. And you're talking about a shit mast that was their Achilles heel, and just the whole system sort of fell apart. So, I don't know. You're still got to be at the forefront. Well, F1 they're starting to pick it up now. They got some new stuff coming out, which I probably even shouldn't have said that.
Probably should have said that.
No. Well, I got some, but anyway, they've done that too, and I know KT are working on a integrated. That's no secret, So we'll probably see that this year, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense with Ryan being so close to KT and also working for Four Drive.
Yeah, those boys are really into it. I mean, you're over there at Wood River. I mean, wow, it's like just seeing the whole KT thing was just amazing, isn't it? Like, and going out with Ryan and bloody the boys, it was just Kane. It was unbelievable, we're out going down the middle of the river and he's, hey, Rob, turn around. He's just going so fast. And he's actually coming up and he's almost doing circles around me. And I'm just going down the river, So I'm on a four drive. He was on a power wing. And then, I'm still going, it's like that. And I turn around and he's 200 metres back upwind. And I'm like, what foil are you on? He goes, the 700 Nomad. So we're on the same foil. And he made me look like I was standing still, And that's, if the freshwater and hood, though, it's different. Hey, Josh, even on the four drive, you have to make adjustments. I reckon, because I got, you look at my wall, I obviously can't travel all that. So I pick, bits and pieces. I think I got like a code 720 and I got the 700 this and that. And I think the biggest foil I took was like an 800. It was a big mistake, hey? I took everything too small. It's going up to your tent saying I need a bigger code. It's going up to your tent saying I need a bigger foil. Going up to the KT boys saying I need a bigger foil, So
like foil slut.
Oh, yeah. It is too. But, again, like the four drive in fresh water, but like the integrated mast in hood is like you said, that's a punish going upwind, isn't it? It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any was it there were normal masts. So yeah, there were at the Hood River. Yes, there were.
Oh,
Very
totally. Yeah.
Very
I think the last, I think we've kind of covered all the brands. Or have you kind of thought, any come to mind that that we didn't talk about? But basically, I think we've talked about how there's aluminium, there's carbon. You've got your original still that you can retrofit the original pod to. But I think what we haven't really dove into, and if we've got kind of 5 minutes to talk about it, is that the one thing that all the brands are doing a little bit different is once you've got an integrated mast, you don't have that universal pod to put wherever you want anymore. You're set with that one height. So let's kind of go through just off the top of your head. We don't have to go deep into all of them, but just kind of where the brands have kind of set their pods and what you find beneficial?
Yeah,
Or
that's a really good question because no one actually asked me, and then all of a sudden everyone just came out, and pretty well everyone is at between 17 and 18 and a half centimeters, every single brand. So it's quite bizarre, and I went, oh, I said, geez, I like 15, but then again, a lot of people who've got a 15 centimeter bolt on, and say you've got a code mast because the base of the mast is so wide, the wire travels, it travels vertically so long you actually have to lift the motor up and put the plug in. So most people that had a 15 centimetre motor were at 17. If you had a 20, you're at 22. So, and then I sort of spoke to Army about it. I said, and then I spoke to Mike about it. And so they all in between that 17, 18, 17. And I was a bit like, I wanted smaller. I wanted much smaller, lower. And but then I got on it, and they're just so damn slippery. You don't know when it's in and out of the water. And I was talking to Jimmy about it, James Casey. I said, mate, you guys had your whatever it is. Yeah, anyway,
we're not going into details.
No, yeah, sorry. So you had yours. And I said, I would have preferred a lot, but I said, you don't notice it. And then he went and had a go, and he goes, you know what? You're right. You don't notice it. So I think that's, you got to think from the four drive perspective. What's going to make the majority of the world happy? Not what PIROS or Josh or Jimmy, And I think that 17, 18 mark, I reckon that's spot on, hey. And especially when you're chipping upwind, just with,
I definitely like that longer pod height when I'm purposely going upwind. If I'm just in the surf and I'm using the motor to get from, where I kick off the wave back out to the back, where it's only like 10 seconds of motoring, I can ride a pod that's like basically hitting my board.
Yes.
So it's kind of just gearing it to what you're used to. And, me and you're fortunate enough where we've got all the toys where we can play around with all those minute things. But if you're just your average foil drive guy that, you're investing in one mast and it's a big decision, it's nice that, they can purchase something that does it all. You've got that, what you said, that 17 centimeter range where with the integrated masts, it's you're safe.
It is, and I think they made a great choice for that, and it just works too. And it's like when you've seen all that sand pumping we've had at Surface Paradise, the poo bank and all that type of stuff, the poo shooter. It's actually gone the other way now, and it's absolutely shit inside through the gutter. So when you get a wave in, it's what's happening. We've got this bank, this big diamond bank that comes out, and we've got all this water refraction. And because it's been man-made and nature's trying to get it, so we've got this. When you come in, we're riding just absolute shit. It's like going out on full flood in a seaway, like that churn. And that's where it's good, and I quite like that 17 and that type of stuff. And then also too, again being integrated. You see, I'm not going in. Other guys are going in, So one, I'm used to it because I'm out there every day, regardless how bad it is. But two, if it's the right motor height and the integrated mast, and it's just, and when you're rolling with waves again, you can be confident to dip the pod and go back out. And again, that's where it's good having just a little bit down, a bit lower. So yeah, for sure, I'm really happy with it. Hey, so. Downwinding, sure, I'd like a different one for that. But, it is what it is. So, yeah, we'll have to just wait and see what comes out.
Lovely. Well, I think that's a good note to finish on. I really appreciate your time. PIROS, you're a wealth of knowledge. Is there anything that you want to leave people with,
Well, yeah, I think, I just, if people are really struggling and they're just saying, you want to do just one single upgrade, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, the integrated mast, seriously, it's the best thing you can do. That's it. It will improve every single aspect of your forward driving. Guaranteed.
I love it. You sound like a dirty salesman, but I'm actually going to steal the mic for a second, and I'm going to do a public announcement that on the 14th, 15th of February, I'm running the Sydney Northern Beaches Downwind Foil Race. PIROS, you've already locked into it. We've got a foil drive division. The last few years we've had over 60 competitors. I'm kind of banking on this year to have up towards 100 competitors. It's not just a race. It's over the whole weekend. And we're going to have the race on one day. And then the other day, we're going to have events where people can show off, demo. We'll still be able to compete, whether there's good surf conditions, we can do like a little surf comp or a pump comp or anything just to congregate all the foilers together and have a good time. We might even have a social event on the Saturday night where we can watch a few foil films. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be posting that really soon. We're just locking in a few more things, but 14th, 15th of February, keep that in your diary, and we'll see you soon.
You. All right, no worries.